We're preparing for a live stream. So folks who've just joined the call, I'll be adding a link in the chat section. You can click on it and it'll lead you to this particular Google Docs page where you can come and add your name in the attendees section. I'd highly appreciate, irrespective of whether it's your first time, your last time, you might drop off in between. That would definitely make us upset. But or you're going to stay throughout the course of the 1 hour that we will be spending here today. Please add your names in the attendees section. Vishal, do give me a heads up when we're live.
Yeah, we are already live.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Good evening, everyone, and wishing you all a very happy new year. It's the first websites call of the year 2025, and we warmly welcome all of you here. It's great seeing a bunch of folks join in this evening. We basically take up a bunch of PRs that people have been working on, or issues that people have been working on, or give shout outs to folks who have been doing some commendable job, or even highlight issues that newer folks could come take up or work on, or folks who are interested in a particular domain. If they find something that we need assistance with, we mention those, and based on their area of interest, they can pick up topics. So today's session is a bit more special. We will be having a hands-on tutorial as well. So please wait a bit more. We would be following a tradition that we follow in each of our calls, which is we call out all our newcomers who are attending that specific call for the very first time. We ask them to come forward, introduce themselves, so to say their name, where are they from, what are they doing, and a bit about themselves, the tech stack that they've been working on. So I'll quickly take a look at our attendees list today, and I can see we probably have a couple of newer faces up here. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Akash, is this the very first time that you're joining this call? If
Yes,
yes, oh yeah.
yes,
If yes, please go ahead and introduce yourself. We'd love to get to know you better.
yes. So my name is Akash Babu Kushwaha. I'm from Madhya Pradesh, India. I have 2.3 years of experience as a front-end developer, and I am working on JavaScript, React, JavaScript, and React HTML and CSS tag. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We're really looking forward to seeing you contribute throughout. Please stay tuned in, and I assure you, you might find an issue in your area of interest by the end of this call.
Yes, yes,
Great. So moving ahead, Fahim, is this the very first time that you're joining this call? If yes, do you
Yes,
mind
yes.
introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. You're loud and clear.
so I'm Fahim. I'm currently a fourth year undergraduate at VIT, Vellore, and I'm from Kashmir. And my tech stack basically is Mern. I work with Mern basically. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's great to get to know you. Okay, so I think we'll just take up one more intro, and then I'd appreciate if the other newcomers would drop in their introduction in the chat section. We'll ensure we cover those up and make you feel welcomed. So, Darshan, is this the very first time that you're joining a websites call?
Yep.
Oh, then please feel free to introduce yourself. We'd love to get to know you better.
Okay. My name is Darshan Lahamge, and I'm 2024 graduate from SPIT Mumbai. So currently, I'm working as a cloud and ops engineer in Mumbai itself. So I have a area of interest in cloud field. Also, I'm a full stack developer, both in web and app, and also exploring blockchain field also.
Oh, that's great. That's a powerhouse, to be honest. So, yep, you're in a good place, a good community. We do cover up all of these areas and segments, so you'll definitely find a bunch of fishes in and out. Thank you so much for coming forward and sharing a bit about yourself. For
Thanks.
the other folks, please do not shy away. Do feel free to mention a bit about yourself, because that would help us understand and help you get into issues or areas that you could contribute to if you're here to be an open source contributor. And if you're here to just hang out with amazing folks and check out the work that we do, stay tuned in. A quick heads up. So if you've just joined the call, there's a link in the chat. I'll be dropping that again. Probably Vishal and Sudhanshu must have done that a couple of times by now, but we'd encourage all the folks present on this call to go ahead, click on the link on the chat, come up here to this page that you can see on my screen right now, and add your name in the attendees section. You can add a comma and add your name, or press an enter and add your name in the new bullet point. Either works. Without any further ado, I guess it's time for us to begin the session for today. So one of the very first sites that we'll be covering up would be our layer5.io page. I will be adding a link to this in the chat so that you can follow along and go ahead and check this. So this is a site that is built on top of Gatsby, and a bunch of folks are contributing in maintaining this particular platform or this particular site, from UI UX to the front end to the data that gets in. And we are going to have a session today where we'll show you how, not just on layer5.io, but on the other pages as well, we get a bunch of this data going in dynamically. How do we manage all that info that's being displayed up here? So I will be picking up the very first agenda item for the day from my end, which is a hands-on tutorial where we'll be demonstrating how we utilize a bunch of spreadsheets, or spreadsheets in general, to dynamically populate the data, how we make it feasible and easy for us to maintain these huge number of sites and huge amount of data and keep a track of things. So I'll quickly head on to one of the slides that we have. Please do not expect fancy animations from my end, but yeah, it's just a walkthrough that would help us go throughout. So I'll quickly go up to the next page, which is, okay, as I mentioned, we are working on, like, the first site that we were picking up was layer 5. So we'll begin with the layer 5 page, and a very specific page up here that relies on a bunch of data that's coming from a spreadsheet and how we populate it. So over the course of this tutorial, we'll be covering up 2 different pages, and a very similar concept follows on the other sites that we have up. So please be a bit more patient for the next 30 minutes, and do add your questions in the chat. We'll be covering up a few more once I'm done with the demonstration. And post all of this, we'll be continuing with the other topics that we have for the day. So just be a bit more patient with me, and do let me know when my screen is not visible or when I'm not audible. That would help me a lot. So without any further ado, I'll add a link for this in the chat section so that folks can go through and check this particular site, which is layer5.io/pricing. So we've got a pricing page that looks pretty much like this in the dark mode, and then something like this in the light mode. We've got a bunch of data filtering happening here, and then a whole lot of information, and then a comparison table enabling folks to understand things better, to take decisions better. So this entire page that you can see up here depends on one single spreadsheet, which looks something like this. So this particular spreadsheet, what we basically do, or have a general formula, is I'll take you through, I'll add a link for this here in the chat, and probably take you through the code snippets quickly as well. So we tend to have our layer 5 repository, where we have a workflow section, and inside the workflows, we tend to have a specific workflow, which is the feature list workflow. Now, what this workflow, to generalize things down, we have these workflows that run on a nightly basis. So every 24 hours, once this is going to run, and it'll go up to this particular sheet, it'll check if, there's some updates here, some content changes here, and fetch all of that and then update it here in this sheet, keeping the existing data intact, just adding in newer info. So I'll take you through how this entire workflow works and the different steps involved. You'll find a very similar or a standard structure that we follow, which is we have a workflow. This workflow depends on a build file. What the build file does is it generates a JSON file. This JSON is a cleaned version that every file gets. So this JSON depends and varies based on the different sites that you'll be seeing. But more or less, the structure is going to be very similar. And this JSON data file is what we ultimately use, the UI components ultimately use as a source to make this page look like an eye candy for all of you. So here is the very specific workflow that we are using for this page to populate the data inside this page. To generally go through, we run this on a specific time frame. There are a couple of permissions that we do. Now here we've got a couple of environment files, which is you have a link to which spreadsheet it has to go to, and what is the target file that it's also keeping an action, which is the JSON file that we need as an output at the end. So going through a bunch of these steps, checking the repository out, checking the dependencies out, and then finally coming to a stage where you are fetching the spreadsheet and then you start the work on your spreadsheet. So I'll take a moment, go up to our build file. I think it would be far convenient if I copy it here and share it in the chat. So this is where most of the data filtering or the CSV to JSON conversion and everything happens. This is a master file for this repo or for that particular page, that you can see. What basically happens here is we are using the CSV to JSON package to convert our existing CSV file here into JSON objects that we can then go ahead and use. The major minor patches that you can see, it's basically to keep a track of how, the node versions, what's happening, so that if something breaks, we at least know why things broke. Now, moving up to headers that you can see up here, this is basically all these headers on top that would act as JSON keys for the values here. So for maintaining the key value pairs, we are extracting all of these headers up here from that file. And then we proceed with the entire CSV, how things work inside of it. Let's say, let me probably bring, I think we can take the filtering part here, or I could, just a second. Maybe, yeah. This would be far better or convenient for you to understand rather than overwhelming. So what we do is we initially come up, get all of these headers, filter those headers, and now we check for a couple of things. We are filtering this entire sheet. We've got a bunch of data in here, but we don't need all of this. There are multiple pages that depend on this data. So for this specific page, we're looking for two parameters, which is if there is an exclude column, like if that particular row has an X inside the exclude column, or that key has an X value inside of it, please do not include any of those inside of our JSON file that we need at the end in our output. So we first go ahead and we exclude all of these exclude files, and then we go ahead and grab some other data. Oops. I'm so sorry for that. My trackpad isn't working as it should, unfortunately. Yep. So the second thing that we do is, after removing all of these excludes, is we check up here if there's an X present in any of the other columns. So if you can take a look at this page, we have 4 different plans: the personal, the team designer, the team operator, and enterprise. So what we do here is we check if any one of them has an X, just extract that entire row and bring that up to us. And then we'll see what we have to keep, what we have to exclude from that row. But this entire object should be there inside the JSON. And that is pretty much what our filter up here does. It goes ahead, checks all of this. If exclude is not there, it brings that entire row for us that we can later use. Now, once you have this entire row, or all of this, it's sort of checking continuously throughout all the objects. You find a patch, you keep adding it. You find a match, you keep adding it. And once all of this is done, what we do is we create a particular, like, we've got this converted JSON that's ready with us, the data that we want. What we here now do is we already happen to have some amount of data that's existing here. And then there's this newer data that's coming. Probably, today I added an X up here, or today I changed the description for a particular pricing page, or I changed something, maybe removed something. And if that's what we are doing here in the sheet, we have this new data up here. So now is where we compare the new data that we have, the JSON, and the old data. Whatever is missing in the existing file, we tend to add those as the newer updates to this. And once all of these updates are, like, we check what are the new updates that have to go in, and then write that down in the existing JSON file that we have, which is feature underscore data.json. I'll quickly take us through that file, because that would clear a bunch of doubts, and you'll get a chance to see how things look like. So I'll add a link for this in the chat section as well. The layer 5 pricing page here currently depends on this JSON data that we have. This is the filtered data. Every night, based on the updates that we do, or whenever we make an update, it goes through, it checks if there's something that has changed, it'll update it here. If nothing has changed, then it won't mess up with the file structure that we tend to have, or the JSON file that we tend to have. Now you can see a bunch of these objects coming in that we have filtered and we have bought. Once all of this is here, we would then proceed with adding this, or representing this JSON data that we've received inside both of these columns, a comparison table that we have, and these cards. So how we would do that would be, I guess we can first take up how do we present data inside, or filter data and present it inside of these 4 cards, and then proceed with how this matching is done. It's a bit different for both of these, specifically, whenever you check out any of our pricing or subscription or plans or tiers page, you would find that the comparison table has a different, it has a file that deals with cleaning data and adding it inside the comparison table. And then you have another one that adds data inside the plan cards that are there on top. I'll probably take us through our plans first. So as you can see, we've got 4 plans: the free, the team designer, the team operator, and the enterprise. So any of the general info related to that plan, we tend to add that here. Let's say the byline, the other info, the pricing, what has to go, what tag has to be added on top, all of that info. We deal with it here on top, and then we come to this particular section where we fetch all that data that we had, the feature data. Now, what we go through, like, we go through all of that data one after the other. We categorize, categorize them into which plan what goes into. So if there's a match for this, fill all of this. So here, what we specifically need to map is, as you can see, I'll probably bring both of them into 2 different screens side by side, so that helps us a bit better. Yep. So if you take a look up here, up close, we are looking at the personal plan. We have the ID of that particular, I think I can bring up another JSON data that helps. Oops, this is not the JSON data file. It's okay. I think we can still manage without the JSON data up. So that object that you have, the JSON object, from that particular object, we have a bunch of info. Just spare me a moment. I believe it would be convenient if I bring this file up as well. And we proceed. Perfect. So, whoops. Just a second. I should have. This is strange. Yep. Sorry for the delay, or the mess that I've created. We tend to have a category that we are picking up from here. We take the category order, the category, the function, and the description. So basically, we'll need a tier. From the comparison tiers, we pick up which particular tier it has to go into based on the if there's an X present on it. Like here, it says, okay, this should be present on all 4 of them. So this data that you see, it's not for this particular plan card. This data is specifically used only inside these 4 comparisons or the comparison table, the X's. Here we specifically focus on the subscription tier. So all the free subscription tier ones based on this info here. And then if you come up, you'll find that we have named all of them. So the first section of the web page deals with the plan cards. The second section of the web page deals with all the comparison table info that we have. So if you're ever working on this sheet or you have to update or manually change anything, just a quick heads up that if you have to do anything with the plan cards, it's always the subscription tier that you have to take a look into or keep in mind. And if it has anything to do with the comparison table up here, the comparison table below here, it has to be the other column. So now that we are focusing on the plan cards, we would need this subscription tier. The category is up here. And then let's say here we have infrastructure as a design, and this is what we have here, infrastructure as a design. So the function name comes up here. If you open up Toggle, you'll find the feature that describes it below. So that's how we've structured this thing out. So if you take a note of how the data is being extracted, so for the plan cards, there are very specific rows of data that we're extracting. And then when we go up to our comparison table up here, which the generate details file, code file up here deals with, you'll notice that inside of our generate details, we have some higher order, or we've categorized them into some other categories. So we first enlist all of these categories, and then inside these categories, we add all of this data. So whatever the category has to be. You can take a look at this file. I'll probably be adding that in the chat. Now, what we do here, so we use this subscription tier, like whatever is named here as a source of truth to add data inside those different plan cards. When it comes to the comparison table, if there's an X mentioned for on top of a particular tier of the comparison table, then there is a tick mark that there's an associated tick mark that you can find for that particular feature inside of here. And if there's no X, then you'll find a cross in here. So we're basically using one standardized X up here to figure out what has to be added, what has to be removed. And there's another thing that you can notice. We tend to have docs or a doc written up here. So what would happen when you click on one of these would be, it would redirect you to that very specific documentation that we have either inside Mesh-tree or inside the Layer 5 cloud. How that works is we tend to have a docs column here where we map, for that particular feature, where do you happen to have the doc? So you can take a look, like we tend to map a bunch of these here. A couple of them are still missing because either I've left mapping those out or we don't have suitable map. So you get these docs, and what we do here is we map that if you tend to have, if this particular feature tends to have the doc inside of JSON, like the docs thing is filled like configuration management, you tend to have something in here, it's not empty or it's not null, then you add this very specific link beside of it here. So that's how we map things here. And so the moment you click on it, it will open that specific page that you can check. That would be a bit about how this particular pricing page works, how do we go about it? So a brief overview would be, we first have a workflow that runs every night. This workflow depends on a build file that you saw up here, that basically deals with cleaning, filtering, and getting us the exact amount of data that we need to populate this particular site, the layer5.io pricing page. And once it filters and gives us that JSON, there are 2 to 3 files present in here that deal with different sections of that page, and they themselves clean out a, a group of things inside and present a page that looks something like this. So if you've got any questions, I'll probably pause for the next 5 or 6 seconds. I'll cover up the questions in the chat once we're done with the other demo. But in the meantime, when people go ahead and they mention, I would like to show a live demo. So let's say we are here, just for a demonstration purpose of this, let's say in the comparison table, we tend to have something like export views. And if in export views, let's come up here and get out export views. Where's our export views? Yes, here you have it. So you can see in the free tier at this point, it's marked as an X. What if I come up to export views and add an X in here, wait for a moment until it's saving, give it a second confirmation by refreshing and checking, is there an X here? Yes, there's an X here. And then I come up here to our layer 5 page. I'll go ahead and I'll trigger a manual workflow run at this point because the nightly workflow would be about a couple of hours later tonight. So let's wait for this thing to happen. As you can see, we've just triggered a workflow here. You can click on it and see. So these are the various steps that we had inside of the workflow file we checked out a couple of minutes ago, or the link to it is in the chat. So here it's going to go through all of this info, get all the dependencies up, and then it's going to go ahead to the build file, like when the fetch and process update part comes up. So we'll probably have to wait for a bit, but this is the right time. If anyone has got any questions, please feel free to unmute and mention or share the doubts that you have, or any suggestions that you might have as well. We'd highly appreciate that. Okay. It seems we do not have questions. Either it was crystal clear or I just failed miserably in explaining. Yep, as you can see, we just started this process where it has gone through the spreadsheet. It's trying to fetch things up because it has found. So one thing that I missed in the workflow was our commit. So what happens is once this entire process of mapping and adding everything is done, or the changes have taken place, we trigger a commit. So we trigger an automatic commit once the commit is done. Once the commit is made to our official repository using the correct access, we have the data, we have the code updated, and what happens next is we call the build and deployment workflow that would again go ahead and put this commit up to deployment. And once the deployment is successful, you can see the changes up on the page. That's this page right up here. So there's no amount of manual labor that you have to do. You have to just go add an X, remove an X, add some data, remove some data, probably make a new entry as well, and just make one source of truth, update it here, and it's updated elsewhere as well. So this particular page or this amount of data is used across multiple sites differently. So for you to go ahead and manually statically change all of that data, it's tedious, it's troublesome, and it's error prone. To get rid of all of these issues, we came up with this particular dynamically using one source of truth, the spreadsheet, and dynamically using the workflow to update the data once and for all in different places. And I guess the meantime, we already have this up, waiting for the, it's triggered the build and deploy site. So waiting for the deployment to be successful, and then we can refresh the page and check that, we tend to have a tick mark up here or not. So I guess that's going to take a while. I'll again pause a bit to see if we've got any questions, or move into the second site that we have for the day, which is the layer 5 docs up here. Yep. Let me check if we've got something in the chat. Oh, the chat looks empty as well. No worries on that. I'll share a link to the other page that we tend to have, which is the layer 5 docs, and take you through how we update data inside of it, or how do we show the tiers or info inside of this one. So as you can see, we are done with the pricing side and how that works. For the docs as well, it's a very similar structure. It depends on this very same spreadsheet and the data that we have here. We have a similar workflow, a build file that generates a JSON file, which is ultimately used by all of those UI components that we tend to have to display the data that you can see up here. A quick heads up, this page that you can see is built on top of Hugo. So when we come to the later part of how do we represent the JSON data, we'll be taking you through a couple of snippets, a couple of Hugo snippets to be specific, which help us dynamically and manually add the subscription tiers to these pages. So you can see that if you are someone who has to do something, you have to set up something, or you're someone who needs some form of info, or you go through the docs and you are curious, okay, is this available for, like, can I do this? Is this something that's available for free? Then you'll get to know, based on the subscription tier mentioned here, you know, what it can do, or which tier it's allowed in, or who can access it, or who can use this particular feature. So without any further ado, I'll quickly take us through this doc up here. And if you can see, I'll add a link to this workflow as well in the chat that you can access. So when you come up to this particular workflow, it has a very similar structure. We are referencing the same spreadsheet. We tend to have a similar structure here, but because we're using Hugo, we are adding this data, like we are ensuring that our featured underscore data dot JSON file that we tend to have, that is inside the data folder. So I'm not sure how many of our participants today are comfortable with Hugo, but this tends to help us when we are using shortcodes or partials to figure out where is the data source, or where do you have to fetch the data from. So that's a reason why we happen to have it inside the data folder, specifically inside Hugo. Then the very basics, like the very general steps that we have, checking up dependencies, installing Node, and then fetching the file and processing the file inside our build. So here we have our build file again, a very similar structure using CSV to JSON package to convert everything to JSON. The same set of headers that we had earlier, but here things take a bit of a turn. What we do here in terms of filtering the data is pretty different to what we were doing earlier. So here, when we come up, we tend, so these things that you can see, it's basically which file it's reading, which file it's writing. I'm sure that we don't have to go a bit deep into that. Would rather focus on how the filtering happens here, how it's different. So if you remember, we were using the exclude column earlier and ensuring that if there's at least one X somewhere here in either of these four, we used to add it. Now things have changed because it's our docs. We ensure that there's a docs link beside a particular feature. And if you happen to have a docs link, we dig a bit more deeper. If you can see here, there's this docs.layer5.io/canvas, and then you might find the docs.meshy.io page, which is another one of our web pages. And then we also have one for cloud, which is pretty similar. I think I can pull one up. Can't recall of a feature that we had. Yeah, here. So you had a docs.layer5.io/canvas, and there's this docs.layer5.io/cloud. So here, I probably came across. Yep, this would be the cloud one, and then if you check out, this would be the canvas, and then there's Meshri as well. So currently we are mapping thing like for the demo today, we'd be checking these two sites that are here in docs.layer5.io, the canvas and the cloud. So once you know that, okay, we've got a particular, like we know that this has to go inside docs, you have to figure out where inside docs does it have to go into. Should it be inside cloud, should it be inside canvas? So we do the URL parsing here. We get the URL, we go through it and we check, okay, does the URL say it's inside cloud? Fine. If it's inside cloud, then we have a file or a folder structure here that I can take you through. Just a moment. We have the source, and then we have our content. Is our content? Yep. No, that's the master. Just a second, everyone. Taking us through. Oh, this is the layer 5 site. That's the very specific reason I couldn't find content. Just a second. We can come up here to code, go up to content/en. So if you click up here, you'll find a bunch of markdown files. So inside cloud and inside canvas. So if it's inside cloud, it comes up here in the structured search through, figures out where it has to, let's say if this is inside cloud getting started, integration. So cloud getting started, and then you have this, what's that again? GitHub integration. That's here. This is the markdown file. So it knows where it has to go and add, that specific tag that you can see here. But this thing that I just mentioned, to make it dynamic, we are using Hugo. So we've got partials inside Hugo that I'll be taking you through in a bit, that enables us to add it to that very specific location that we want to add it inside. So coming back to how filtering works, so we just check if there's a docs, it's not null, there is some value inside of it, and then we bring that entire row up. A pretty similar process, comparing it with the existing data, then writing things down, whatever the new data that we've received, we write that down, and then we have the JSON that we need. So if you come down to data, where we mentioned inside Hugo, we are storing it here, the feature data. It looks pretty similar to the earlier one that you saw. But then this only has those those that have something inside of it. Like they tend to have a docs link inside of them. And that's the reason they are displayed up out there. So I'll now proceed with taking you through how, because this is Hugo, how do we dynamically till the stage we've come where we know where things are, what has to go in, where it has to go in, but who's going to add it? We can't manually go and add things up. So that's where Hugo comes to our rescue. If you come up here, inside of layouts, we've got a partials folder, and there we've got a feature-info.html file. If you take a look at this particular file, whose link I'll add in the chat, you'll notice that what it does is it gets our feature data, .json file, and it goes through our file, and it fetches that particular URL that we need, cleans that up, and sees, okay, where do we have to add it inside. So it goes through that, cleans it up a bit. What we basically do is, while we were working on this, we encountered a feature. If you go up to something like, let's say, we go to security and roles, you'll notice that there are some of these. So this entire documentation page has been divided into a couple of different sections. Let's say team roles is available only for a particular tier, and the provider admin role is available only for a particular tier. How do we deal with a situation like this? They've got the same link, but they've got different tiers enlisted. So we came up with an idea that, okay, we could give a broad spectrum overview, and what we could do is we could make a union of all of these. So let's say some of these features are available for team, some are available for designer, some for enterprise. If it's available for at least one of these, we'll enlist that one. If it's available for almost all of these, we'll make a union of this and then add it here. So when you go through this particular partials file, you'll notice that there is this union operation or the union of tiers also happening up here. And if you find a match or if there's a union happening, we just add a comma and then add the tier that has to go in. So that's a brief on how we tend to add a lot of this data inside of our documentation that we have. May it be Canvas or may it be the other one that we have up there. I'm just checking in if we had a bunch of our Canvas links. Checking in if I could bring up one of the links. Yep. So the export designs has this. So both on Canvas and on Cloud, the docs. This is how we go ahead and ensure that things are mentioned here. So all to bring it down in a short and concise manner. If you update anything up here, like inside the docs, if you have to make a change, what you would do is add, like, just ensure that that link is already present for the feature. If not, add a new feature or create a doc, add the link for it. And then you can again come up here, run the workflow manually or wait for the workflow to execute nightly. And then it'll first go through the workflow that you have, then go through the build file, clean things up, add it inside our JSON, the data.json here for this particular page. And once it's inside the data.json, the partials that refers to it, it's going to categorize things down, break things down, and add them manually. So all you have to do is update the sheet here, and the rest of it will be taken care of. Now, there are a couple of things that you might have in mind. Let's say, what if I add something here and I've waited for 24 hours and nothing is updating on the site? What you can do is, as you see, this workflows that we have, you can come up to our actions section, and open it in a new tab. You can come up to the actions section up here. You'll see all of these workflows listed because it's depending on a workflow. You can click on that workflow name and see, okay, a couple of hours ago when the manual workflow was triggered, what was the what was the success rate? Was it successful? Did it fail? Let's say we had a contributor who was contributing to one of our workflow, like one of the build files here for a specific reason, and his PR after being merged broke a couple of things. So when we notice that things are not updating, we could quickly come up here and see, okay, it's there as a source of truth. It's there in the spreadsheet, but it's not reflecting. And we came up here, we checked things through, and we figured out, okay, where is it failing for that specific reason, notified it, it was patched up, and then another manual workflow trigger or waiting for a couple of more hours if you happen to have that amount of time, and checking things out, it works like it's up and it's running again. I think we do have the change that we made up here, which is in export because we added the X. It should be live now. So a moment of truth, I'll probably refresh the page here. Wait for a minute or two for that to come up and to display the X here. It takes a bit of a time, but that updates noise. Just waiting for it to start displaying it here. Any other questions that we might have, or something that someone would like to suggest? Would be happy to take those questions and suggestions up. Okay. Seems we do not have a question or a suggestion as of now. So I'm still waiting for this to update, and as soon as it does, I'll give everyone a heads up, probably adding the link back on chat. We won't waste any more time because I've taken quite a lot of time here explaining and taking us through the tutorial. So yep, I can't see any questions for me in the chat as well. So I guess we can, go ahead and proceed with all of the contributors who are here to share about their PRs and things that they've been working on. Thank you so much, everyone, for being so patient throughout. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions regarding, how the spreadsheet works, or if you have suggestions on how we could improve this. But I'd quickly check in. Taran, if you're here, do you mind going ahead and presenting your agenda item for the day? Vishal, a quick check-in. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are perfectly.
Thank you so much. That was giving me a scare because it was way too silent for too long. I believe because Taran hasn't responded.
Just for context, I think fix resolve block code. I think this is one of the issue that is already been fixed in one of the PR.
Mhm.
So most probably this will not be needed. I think I closed the issue, so we'll inform him in this PR.
Sure.
So yeah, it's already been resolved.
Thank you so much for mentioning that, Sudhanshu.
This was one of the warning, during build times.
Uh-huh. Great. So for the folks who are wondering what this issue was about, you can check this here. I'll try to grab the other issue that already fixes this. But in the meantime, Shivam, if you're here, do you mind coming up and taking us through the agenda item that you have up here?
I can explain how this.
Sure. I can. Do you want me to share my screen? I think I can have the screen up.
No. Okay, yeah, so this was another I think when we make site, like when we run the site in development, so there is a CSS conflict comes, which has been discussed in previous meeting also. So last time we said to ignore it, this order. So most probably this was not, that was also not an issue because there are two things we use. Most probably one is Slick Carousel package and a font package. Sorry, a font styling, which is, so this font styling is applied globally, and this Slick, which is was applied particular files. So when we move to Gatsby later version, so like the Webpack tried to order these packages, but no, was not able to because it tries to see the styling in proper order. So it was not able to, but it was also not cause issue because we also mostly use modular CSS with proper class name and selectors. But then also what I did to resolve that warning, I tried to is I removed from all those particular files, those theme, and moved to the root level, which is the Gatsby browser, and surpassed it from the root level. So, and move the font styling at the top. So in this way, I guess the Webpack will be able to configure the uh, order of the packages. So I think Ankita, you commented you were not able to see those warnings. And if someone can else also try by making the site or making build Vishal or someone. So yeah, so we can move forward with this PR.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sudhanshu. I'll add this in the chat section. Probably we can have Vishal or someone else as well who can go ahead and test this out and notify us if they can still see the warning. I presume they won't, but perfect. Thank you so much for sharing this. Just a quick heads up for the others on the call, because we've got a bunch of newcomers here. So if you tend to have any questions in mind when we are discussing a particular PR, please feel free to ask it via chat or by raising your hand, and we'll take that up. Or if you have some suggestion or feedback to offer, please let us know as well. If something doesn't make sense at a particular point of time, you can add that in the chat, and we'll try our level best to help you out, take you through the process. It might be a bit overwhelming at the beginning, but we'd highly appreciate if you could come forward and interact, because that would help both the community and the project grow, as well as you go personally. So thank you so much again for sharing this, Sudhanshu. Anything else that you might want to discuss regarding this particular PR?
No, nothing more. That's something.
Thank you so much. I'll probably pause for a second or two to just see if you've got any feedback or questions that folks might have with this regard. Looks like we don't. So I guess it's Fahim's turn next. So Fahim, do you like, if we still have you on the call with us because it's your very first call and it's been too long, do let us know if you can share your screen and take us through the issue that you've been working on. I'll quickly
Yeah,
check in if-
sure.
Okay, right.
It was just like Z index, like the div was getting below the another div.
Okay.
In
Just
PR, I shared the video. I just fixed the Z index and it worked.
Mhm.
In the issue, you can see there's a video above. Yeah, 6153. Inside that is a video. It
The
was
first one.
happening on
Okay.
responsive devices like mobile phones, or if you like.
Since Fahim is joining us for the very first time, it's he may not be aware, but Fahim, basically the idea is to present your work, give a context to other folks. So even if someone who's joining us for the very first time should get context of what's the issue that you are proposing a fix for, and then so that they can offer their feedback to if they have one, and it also helps other team members as well. So
Thank you so much for sharing that, Vishal. So, Fahim, something that would help others, and like you and everyone on the call, would be first taking us through the issue. What was it about? What's the fix that you're proposing? And then the solution that you have in hand.
So now I need to share the screen to show that it works, right?
Yeah, like what were you, the glitch that you were experiencing, or the probable solution that you're suggesting? Like both.
Okay.
I'll
So one
take my
minute.
screen down for a moment.
or just in case, Fahim, if you're having any issues, we can circle back, right, Ankita?
Mhm. Yeah, we can. Fahim, I think we can take another issue up and then get back to you if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Please keep the things ready. When we get back to you, we'll cover it up ASAP.
Yeah.
Krish, I guess it's your turn now. If you happen to be here, please give us a heads up. You can take over the screen sharing and take us through the issue that you've been working on.
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm sharing my screen.
It's another familiar area that a lot of people have seen today, but still, if you could take us through.
This is the issue which I fix, in which I have to make the header sticky. This is my PR in which I fix this issue. So right now, like in the current website, this is static. So this is static. So like we don't able to see the pricing comparison tier here. So what I fix here, keep making the header sticky, both like, so now user able to see all the comparison here without like uh, which was in the previous. And I also make it responsive also. And there is a issue like there is so much padding here, which I also solve. So yeah, this is my fix of this issue.
If you don't mind, Krish, could you take us through the padding thing once again, if that's possible for you?
Like no, padding thing is not like not previously, but when we make it scrollable or something, then this issue is coming, which I also solved by the line height. uh, right now the main issue which I solved is this, which is the issue is about making this sticky.
Yep. If I'm not sure if others can notice this as well. If you take us back up here, yeah, we had the most popular in a single line. So would highly appreciate if you could still do it, because when you get the popular down below, the issue that happens is it takes a bit more area on top, and then it's a huge box because the other things are empty. So if we can get the most popular in a single line rather than both of them in two different.
Okay, right now na, it is same as I didn't change so much styling, because right now in currently site it is like this, so I didn't change that, but if you want I will change that.
Yep. Just a quick heads up for others in the call. Do you think it would look more ideal and better if we have both of them, one beside another or one below one another?
What you were suggesting?
This most popular that we tend to have here written, if we have it in a single line, that will be better, or having it just as as it is right now. Because if you have it in a single line, it'll occupy less space throughout. It's almost equal to the below one, the free, the team designer, the team operator. It should be a bit
Yeah,
smaller.
makes sense.
Any other suggestions that we might have? Thoughts? This looks great, Krish. Just that one thing, if you could add the most popular in a single line, just change the styling a bit. Then I guess that would make a lot more sense. Sangram suggests that probably having an icon for it instead of text, like an icon plot. Yes, that's something that also makes a lot more sense.
I
So-
agree with Sangram, like info icon besides the heading will work, because the most popular div is taking a lots of space. Uh, are we doing this using like any wireframe or?
oh no, the snippet, like this is CSS that we're using, plain CSS, the styling. Sure. I guess a bunch of folks are
Ankita, will you
suggesting.
create a issue for this?
Yeah.
Let's solve this on another separate PR.
Sure.
Krish will
That
do it.
definitely makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much for bringing this up, Krish. I guess we have the thousand policy here, or the time police that's ticking. We've already reached 7:30. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call. We probably have to wrap this session up here, but just a couple of things before we do that. For all the folks who were unable to present their issues for the day, would highly appreciate if you could, bring these issues up next week, so that we can, prioritize them and cover those issues up first, and then proceed with the new set of issues that we tend to have. And yep. So this is for Adil, for Ajay, for Akanksha, Darshan, and Anuj. So if please feel free to bring those issues up. We'll ensure that we still go through all of these issues over the course of the week before the next call, and provide you ample amount of feedback that's necessary, and you don't have to be stuck. But yep, if for any reason there is still something that the PR is open and we need to discuss it, please feel free to bring it up to the next next session as well. And I would like to share our discussion forum link up here. So for folks who are here for the very first time, or folks who are joining in but haven't had a chance to go through this. So if you are ever stuck or have some questions for us, please feel free to go through our discussion forum, type your question out. Maybe there's someone who's already answered it, or there's something present that solves your issue. If not, you could open up a new topic in that particular area and segment, and someone would be happy to come up and help you out in that area. Yep. apart from Slack, you can definitely do this. I'll also add a Slack link if you haven't joined Slack already. So there's the Slack link below. You can come up, you can check all the channels, see what excites you as well. And then we've got, here's our calendar. I'll add a link to this as well. You might, like everyone up here might want to have a note of this, or might want to add it to your own calendars. We tend to have a couple of other calls apart from the website call that we have here. Things related to Meshri or the Meshri repo. If you're a newcomer and you haven't attended a newcomers call, please attend it on Thursday. That would help you get a brief of things in and around that are happening. And every newcomer who comes to the call ends up with an issue that they can contribute and work on. And if you're someone who's working more towards the CI aspect of things or the build and release aspect of things, we also tend to have a build and release call coming up this week. So you might want to take a look into it and might want to join that call if that's the area that you want to work on. Primarily, if you're someone who wants to deal with a lot of the Gatsby, Hugo, Jekyll, the documentation and the front end of things, the website's call is an amazing place for you to join, because most of the issues here would tackle that. But that's all for the day. Thank you so much for being such a patient audience. And we really appreciate you joining us today. Hope you all have a great morning, evening, and afternoon based on whichever time zone that you're healing from. And take care, everyone. Thank you so much again. We're a bit over time, and I'm the one to blame, so I apologize. Hope you all have a great time with the community. See you back on Slack. Thank you.